Kutztown University Student Government, Kutztown University Student Services Incorporated, KUR staff and management, or other affiliated organizations.
He fires, and it is good for a touchdown. It's gone! And Giroux's got it! And the Sixers have scored 9 in a row. Are you kidding me?
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Tyler Werner Show, talking Philadelphia sports right here on Kutztown Radio. And in now the month of August, as training camp for the Philadelphia Eagles rolls on, the preseason is here. I mean, NFL football was essentially officially back this past Friday night this past Sunday night when the New York Giants and the Buffalo Bills played in the Hall of Fame game. Of course, Kutztown University's own, Andre Reed, former Buffalo Bill, was inducted in the NFL Hall of Fame this year. Played back in the early 90s when the Buffalo Bills went to 4 straight Super Bowls and just was unable to win any of them. But nevertheless, Andre Reed making his Hall of Fame speech the other day. We'll have the audio of that a little later in the show. Obviously, Kutztown, former Kutztown graduate here. Obviously, got to pay a little tribute to him as he, gets inducted in the Hall of Fame, the NFL Hall of Fame, going to Canton. And, of course, like I said, we had the Hall of Fame game on Sunday night. And as far as the Philadelphia Eagles are concerned, we got the first preseason game coming up in just a few short days against the Chicago Bears. Start to get to see the Eagles head back onto the field, albeit in a preseason format. Where the starters, they only play, maybe a drive or two in at least the first preseason game, that is. But nevertheless, we got training camp going on. All kinds of stories we're going to have on the show today. We're going to have practice reports. At least yesterday, we're going to have some observations as to what went down on the field. I've been following. Hearing bits and pieces of what is going on. There was a little bit of a scrap between wide receiver Jeremy Maclin and Trent Cole late last week during training camp practice. That's something that happens in training camp. Across the league, a minor dust up between Jeremy Maclin and Trent Cole. And, it's something I throw out to the fans. Does anybody get bothered by things like that? Now Chip Kelly doesn't like fighting like that. When you're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, though, I guess I'm not too alarmed by that. The Trent Cole gets in a scrap with Jeremy Maclin. I look at it and I think, Jeremy Maclin is in, he's got this year to prove himself, really, coming back from his ACL injury and to maybe get possibly get a bigger deal after this season, given he comes back and he performs well this season, he stays healthy, etc., etc. And then you got Trent Cole on this Eagles defense, which a lot of people, have said how the defense, is what held this team back this year. And I think on the Eagles defense, maybe hearing that repeatedly, maybe that's got to fire them up. Maybe I think, or at least drive them to get better. I'm not saying they're going to be a great defense this year as a result, but and you look at the personnel. They're not stacked by any means. They don't have any. They don't have any J.J. Watts. They don't have any Richard Shermans. They don't have any, Terrell Suggs or whoever else you want to throw out there, position by position on the Eagles' defense. They don't have any fearsome players. They have some solid players, obviously. Guys with potential, definitely. Also they didn't make any in the offseason. They didn't really make any drastic improvements to this defense. At least you're talking about personnel. But you're hoping that, or I'm hoping at least that naturally this defense is going to progress a little bit. They're young defense for the most part. Maybe with the exception of D'Amico Ryans, but overall, there's a lot of guys, in their early to mid 20s on this defense that, obviously they have some improvement maybe to show us. We'll see how that see how it plays out in the season. And then again, you look at the rest of the NFC East, and it's basically a division full of weak defenses if you think about it. The Eagles might have the better of the defenses amongst the other teams, but again, going back to this scrap, as long as it's nothing too severe, as such as things that maybe have been going on actually around the league and in other training camps, I'm not too bothered by it, by teammates getting in a scrap. It's they're scrumming against each other, scrimmaging against each other. The bottom line is, when the regular season comes or preseason, you're not playing against your own team's defense, and you're not defending against your own offensive players. So, and you get caught up in the heat of things, that's going to happen. Now, I look across the league, and I look at, say, Chicago Bears, for instance, and what went down at their training camp yesterday. I was reading last night how their tight end, Martellus Bennett, they had a more severe case of brawling down there when Kyle Fuller, the guy that they drafted in their first pick this year in their first round, Fuller apparently made a clean tackle that, I don't know, was just a little, maybe it looked a little brutal, but going back, people looking back through the footage, it was a clean play. It wouldn't have been flagged or anything. In an NFL game situation, after that play, Martellus Bennett kind of, turned back around in the huddle. He started, scrapping with Kyle Fuller. He body slammed him, I read. And, I look at that, and, Mark Trestman then called it a day with the Chicago Bears. Basically ended practice there. And, basically, that was maybe a more severe case of, you want to talk about training camp brawls right there. That maybe that's an example of them. So, again, as long as, things like that aren't happening, as long as, these scraps aren't interrupting the flow of practice, I'm all right with it. So, I'm all right with hearing, there's a dust up between Trent Cole and Jeremy Maclin. They're hungry players. That's the bottom line. And you go around the NFL. There's guys on these rosters fighting for their jobs, essentially. Mainly the second, third string guys trying to make the team. As they whittle the roster down from 90 some players to the 53. That actually make the team as you roll into the regular season of the NFL. So I'm all right with that. Little dust up here and there, as long as it's not too severe, I'm all right with. As far as the Eagles are concerned. Now, other than that, right now in Philadelphia sports world, the Philadelphia Phillies, of course, for those that I guess still care about the Philadelphia Phillies right now, at least if the season is not a lost cause, which to me at this point it is. Late last week was of course the MLB trading deadline, and everybody, again, this is one of these things. Everybody thought, what can the Phillies at least do to at least maybe help this team in the future? Like, because not this season, obviously, but what move or moves could Ruben Amaro possibly make maybe to help this team out? Because you figure with this aging team, this that's been showing inconsistency, unexpectedly to me, and many of the Philly fans out there who kind of called that, okay, look at the direction that this franchise is going year after year. A lot of us kind of called that, this kind of season was going to happen. Maybe it's a little worse than some would expect. What kind of deals can this maybe Ruben Amaro make before the trade deadline expires? And what moves did he make? Well, none were made actually. And a team that probably needs some kind of prospect for the future more than anybody, because when this eventual maybe rebuilding process sets in, it might be a long time until the Phillies are contenders again. Of all teams, the Phillies, they don't make any moves. Ruben Amaro doesn't make any moves. I would think that late last week, as the trade deadline was looming, he had to have been like set up in his office like he was getting ready to launch a space shuttle or something, because his job is on the line essentially. He's probably done. He's done after this season. At least the direction the franchise is going, and his failure to really do anything here. I think it's just a matter of time until Ruben Amaro Jr. is ousted here from the Phillies organization as the general manager. But I look here on this site here, this article. The Phillies, despite a 47-61 record, in a last place standing in the National League East, at the time late last week, they had a quiet deadline as they failed to make a trade. Amaro and the Phillies had until 4 p.m. to complete any trades, and of course they didn't make any. Now, it's a little more alarming to me is how Ruben Amaro responded to this. He made it clear that it wasn't because of a lack of effort on his organization's part. He said, "Not disappointed, more surprised that there wasn't more aggressive action from the other end," Amaro said. "We have some pretty good baseball players here. Our goal all along was to improve the club, and there really wasn't a deal to be made that would help us do that." So, the other 29 teams in the MLB, that most, make all kinds of deals, and they weren't aggressive enough. It's like, I don't know how that's possible. It goes back to the whole thing that, everybody else, everyone's misinformed, and, that criticize the Phillies roster essentially at this point that is, aging as far as its core players goes, that were in the on the World Series 2008 team, and that the rest of the league wasn't aggressive enough, or maybe it's just they didn't put together a good enough deal. Maybe they weren't aggressive enough, or they look at the team, and a lot of guys have been not underachieving, but they've just been showing their age, and they just what much do they have left? So really, that's what it comes down to, I think. And the Phillies organization here, mainly Ruben Amaro, really upset a lot of Philadelphia Philly fans. I think heading into the trade deadline, heading into this month of August, where the Phillies are going to more so than ever, now take a back seat to the Philadelphia Eagles as preseason begins, and fortunately, we're going to have more going on, more positive things, flowing through the Delaware Valley and the Philadelphia sports world here now that football is back, and things are looking up for the Eagles. So Again, I mean, the Phillies not making any moves before the trade deadline.
Are you kidding me?
That's basically to sum it up. And I mean, for what it's worth, if anybody is still, caring about the Phillies' win-loss record and how they're doing, this past weekend they finished off a 4-game series with the Washington Nationals. Yesterday they had off, but they're coming off back-to-back shutouts against the Nationals, 11-0 on Saturday, and Sunday they lose 4-0. So I mean, really, that's the state of the Philadelphia Phillies season as we know it. And I thought it was funny, actually. I was looking through posts on Facebook. One of my Facebook friends was actually at Citizens Bank Park last week. Was at apparently they had a Billy Joel concert down there at Citizens Bank Park, right there in the ball field, and he said he took a picture and he captioned, the caption was Billy Joel, all the hits, suggesting that he's playing all a lot of his great classic hits, I guess if you want to call them. And I'm reading that post thinking, Billy Joel, all the hits, good, because knowing this Philadelphia Phillies team, they haven't been hitting squat down there in the ballpark there at Citizens Bank Park. So that's really what we're looking at right now with the Philadelphia Phillies. But again, at least football is here. Basically, the first preseason game for the Philadelphia Eagles is right around the corner against the Chicago Bears this Friday, and it should be interesting to see how this Eagles team comes out this year. We're going to have plenty of Eagles talking about some training camp, as well as the call out of the week, the anticipated new segment here that's going to be a regular part of this show, amongst other things. Right here on the Tyler Werner Show, as we begin to head to our first break. The number to get in, 610-683-4859, if you're ever interested in calling in. And also, of course, we have the Facebook page, facebook.com/Tyler Werner Show. Encourage you, post any thoughts, questions, regarding Philadelphia sports right now, the Philadelphia Eagles right now, or, whatever's on your mind in the Philadelphia sports world. So with that in mind, we'll do the first break. You're listening to the Tyler Werner Show right here on Kutztown Radio.
I'm Steve Majiri, host of KU Live. Tune in every Tuesdays at 2 p.m. for all things Kutztown University. We will discuss everything ranging from school news, sports, and upcoming events, along with frequent appearances from student government to discuss new policies. We will also have members of ACE, the Association of Campus Events, to come in weekly to discuss what new activities are coming to the university. Tune in to 1670 AM or listen to us online at www.kutztown.edu/KUR or on your smartphone by downloading the TuneIn app. You can also listen to us via any phone by calling 610-465-7860. KUR, the radio voice of Kutztown University.
Erasure. Live in the Violet Flame Tour. September 21st, 8 p.m., the Santander Performing Arts Center. Erasure. Andy Bell. Vince Clark. Playing all the hits. Erasure. Reserve seats are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Charged by phone, Ticketmaster retail locations in the Santander Arena box office. For more info, 610-898-SHOW or log on to slpconcerts.com. September 21st, the Santander Performing Arts Center. Erasure. More at erasureinfo.com. Produced by SLP Concerts.
.322 right here in the Tyler Werner Show. talking Philadelphia sports on Kutztown Radio in the midst of the football preseason for the 2004 NFL football season, midst of training camp for the Philadelphia Eagles, a very interesting training camp, and kind of a Hall of Fame week, I guess, in the NFL. The NFL Hall of Fame game the other day, and of course, Kutztown University's own Andre Reed, former wide receiver of the Buffalo Bills, getting inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame this past weekend, making his speech. I said earlier, if you hadn't heard it yet or seen it, play the audio of Andre Reed's Hall of Fame speech. So let's take a little listen into that.
I first want to give thanks to the creator of all things in this world, all things possible, and blessing me to be here tonight. As I stand here in the midst of the NFL's 95th season, I'd be remiss not to talk about these guys to the right and these guys to the left of me. I pay homage to you guys because you represent what this game is about. The excellence on the field and off the field. Your sacrifices have laid the foundation that we call football today. I applaud you guys. I consider you brothers for life. You have opened so many doors for me. You're an inspiration to many all over the country, all over the world. Now, I know you know what I'm going to say next. Where would you rather be than right here, right now? Allentown, Pennsylvania, stand up. I know you here. Kutztown, Pennsylvania. Buffalo, New York, I know you here. Canton, Ohio. These are blue-collar towns that dot the roadmap of an amazing journey. They're connected by the blood, sweat, tears, and cheers of a football life I proudly led through the parts of the last 4 decades. It's a life defined by many things, but no more important than hard work. When you grow up in Allentown, PA, you learn the meaning of that pretty fast. Especially in the household of Joyce and Calvin Reed. My brothers Tyrone and Dion, and my beautiful sister Tisha. We're bonded by the values we were taught. First,
so that's so there you go. That's Andre Reed also throwing like a shout out to Allentown and Kutztown here, and obviously Buffalo. Andre Reed, former Kutztown student here, getting inducted in the NFL Hall of Fame, which was actually brought to my attention, actually the first show I did here back in February here on Kutztown Radio. So, eventually it was, that was bound to, the Hall of Fame speech we were bound to get around to that here on the Tyler Werner Show. So that's what you have there. And, obviously, get back to the Eagles talk here. You talk about wide receivers. I'm looking at this report here from Matt Lombardo. The Eagles wide receiving core called a break at the start of Tuesday's practice today. Jeremy Maclin, who appeared to suffer an injury and pull himself out of practice, what was that? Yesterday he appeared to pull out of practice.
Yesterday I did pull out.
Yeah, kind of like sounded like Tiger Woods there. And also, Riley Cooper and Josh Huff, they were in boots the other day, but there's nothing severe, at least as far as the injury core goes. Maclin returned to practice today after what Eagles offensive coordinator Pat Shurmur deemed just general soreness, stinger, whatever you want to call it. I mean, that it happens. Riley Cooper and Jeff Mail remain in walking boots today, dealing with foot and ankle injuries respectively. But nothing major thus far. Chris Polk, third string running back, has yet to step onto the field during training camp as he battles a hamstring injury that he's been recovering from. Was sidelined once again for today's practice. The offensive line remains relatively healthy, though, as camp stretches into its third week, with only Julian Vanderville out of action once again as he continues to deal with a back injury. Obviously, Lane Johnson won't be, for the first 4 games of the regular season for the NFL. He won't be, obviously, he won't be present due to his suspension, getting caught for PED use just last month. Yeah, so that's obviously that's a bit of a blow there. But yeah, I mean, again, hopefully the offensive line can continue to remain healthy, as there could be a depth issue if they lose anybody. So now on the defensive side of the ball, only cornerback Nolan Carroll sat out today. He missed practice for the second consecutive day after sitting out Monday's session as well. But it doesn't look like any of the starting guys, at least on this roster, are on the defensive side of the ball are banged up right now. So that's good. The bottom line is, no major injuries right now really on the Philadelphia Eagles roster, and that's a good thing as we move through the preseason. Other teams, some teams in the NFC East in particular, they have some injuries going on. I mean, what the Giants just lost one of their running backs for the essentially the season, neck injury, whatever. Actually, a career-ending injury that he's to retire from, and they're a team that's trying to the name slipped my mind right now, but they're a team that's trying perhaps to reestablish their running game, as last year they really struggled to do so, and that put a lot of pressure on Eli Manning, who didn't have much of an offensive line behind him. And you really saw that Giants team take a dip after that. So that's one thing. Of course, the Cowboys, with their historically bad defense last season, losing DeMarcus Ware, maybe the only good player on that defense in the offseason, to the Denver Broncos. And then, of course, they lose Sean Lee for the season for an ACL tear. So, it's so obviously it's not looking good in for the Cowboys. Haven't heard of any major injuries out of the Redskins organization at the moment, but I bring up the Dallas Cowboys, and I don't know if I have to bring this up that I don't know if anybody else has heard of this out here. If not, then I guess call it breaking news to you. Last week I caught an article from ESPN .com that said how when the Dallas Cowboys sent out their tickets, their season tickets, those who bought season tickets for the Dallas Cowboys organization, when they opened up the envelope, they not only you find all the games, the home games. Apparently they also had in the season ticket packs tickets for the NFC Championship game in late January. Yeah, I got to think. I mean, you know, I don't know what compels Jerry Jones to do that. What makes him think that they're going to be in that game? First of all, obviously, how do they? Who really thinks that they're going to get to the game? But to send out home seats to the that game, essentially speculates that the Cowboys are going to finish, first in the entire NFC, or if not, they get to that game and they're the highest remaining seed. Essentially, is what would have to happen for the Dallas Cowboys to have that home game there for the NFC Championship title this year. I'm sorry. I mean, that's. That's I read that and I just I just laughed at this point. I mean, if I were a Cowboys fan, I would not buy that for a second. Even if if that was included in the Eagles ticket packet, season ticket package, which I don't know if it is or not. I didn't look that up, but I laugh at that. I mean, I think that was crazy too. I mean, you never know. I mean, the Eagles. Maybe they could get there. I mean, they could, but I don't expect that happening. And again, the Cowboys having a home ticket for the NFC Championship game in the season ticket envelope here would have to imply that the Cowboys would host that game down in Dallas, and again, that's something Again, I mean, as far as you talk the Eagles, I mean, at least maybe there's some kind of case that they could actually make it to the game. But again, I mean, the entire NFC goes right now through Seattle, and probably a home game for Seattle in the NFC Championship is what we're looking at here. Who they host? I mean, I don't know yet, but. That's probably the most likely scenario here. As far as, Jerry Jones and the Cowboys organization goes, I mean, I guess, good optimism there, but I'm sorry, I don't see it. I don't see something like that happening with the Cowboys in the NFC championship game this year. And I mentioned last week, Tony Romo said, he's going to play the best football of his career. I mean, coming off of his back surgery and now in his mid-30s, and I looked at that and I thought, I guess that's, as a quarterback, he's supposed to have optimism like that. Really, even though I don't see Tony Romo playing his best football of his career, but for Jerry Jones, I guess to include an NFC Championship ticket in the season ticket package for the Cowboys this season, I just look at that and I think, all right, now you're just, come on. But, anyways, we roll on here with the Philadelphia Eagles sports talk here. And of course, again, I mean, all kinds of things going on, even without the Eagles. I mean, this past week, you had, it was announced that 3 former Flyer greats are going to be inducted into the Philadelphia Flyers Hall of Fame. Eric Lindros, obviously, center, back in the, when they went to the Stanley Cup against the Red Wings in the late 90s, they couldn't get it done, but nevertheless, obviously, a great Philadelphia Flyer. And of course, alongside left winger John LeClair. He's one of my favorite players growing up. Another mainstay for the Flyers. Another big goal scorer throughout much of the '90s and the early 2000s. John LeClair, and of course Eric Desjardins, defenseman. A very, very solid defenseman for the Flyers. We bring up the NFL Hall of Fame. As far as Flyers Hall of Fame goes, you got 3 pretty obvious inductees right there into the Flyers Hall of Fame. And Eric Desjardins, Eric Lindros, and John LeClair. I also got to bring up too that there are rumors right now with an NBA trade involving the 76ers, well, the Sixers, 76ers, whatever you want to call them. They're expected to be in a 3-team trade here, that would send Kevin Love to the Cleveland Cavaliers and Andrew Wiggins to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Of course, Wiggins, the first round pick from Cleveland this year. So there you go. I mean, 3 out of the last 4 years, the Cavaliers have had the first pick, and it looks like they might trade him to the Minnesota Timberwolves, which, again, sending Kevin Love to the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, last month when, we're talking about LeBron James going back to Cleveland, I mean, this was the thing. If they get Kevin Love, they're like automatic favorites to win the Eastern Conference in the NBA this coming season, and well, I mean, probably the next few seasons if you want to look that far ahead. Again, I mean, whether or not that results in an NBA championship these next couple of years, I don't quite know about that when you got a stacked Western Conference. But it's that's what we're looking at as far as the Sixers. Somehow, this would be like a 3-team trade here. It would be another deal. They trade Thaddeus Young, who, he's 26 right now, and they get, more draft picks. Now, when the Sixers would be hopefully be competitive in 3 to 4 years again, as they rebuild and they stockpile talent and grow as a young team. By that point, Thaddeus Young will be, around 30 years old. So, I mean, I guess it's one of those moves, really thinking in the future, stockpiling draft picks, stockpiling, as many draft picks as they can, and, whatever prospects comes out of that, I mean, they could really, they could maybe find some more talent. Obviously, not everybody's going to work out that they draft, but they're bettering their chances maybe of drafting some great NBA talent for the future here on the 76ers roster. So that's what we're looking at right there with the 76ers. As far as the trade rumor goes, that's what we have, the Sixers being involved in that big 3-team trade right now. 610-683-4859 and Facebook.com/Tyler Werner Show. We have, obviously, we have more to talk about, more Eagles to talk about on the other side of the next break. Obviously want to hear from you. Again, I mean, as we continue through the preseason here, what are your expectations for the Philadelphia Eagles this season? Last year I kind of last week I should say, I kind of laid it out. I mean, maybe obviously win the NFC East this year, and hopefully they host a home playoff game again, as a result of winning the division, and hopefully this year Nick Foles and the Eagles can maybe get it done as far as winning a playoff game. That's something we could definitely hope for, I think, here in the 2014 NFL season. You're listening to the Tyler Werner Show, and it's right here on Kutztown Radio.
It's Telescopic Topics, a look into the world above us.
Have you ever felt alone in a group of people? Have you ever felt like you needed to get away from people for a while just to refresh and recalibrate your mind? Have you ever been mad at someone who you believe is clearly in the wrong and won't back down from their position? Hello, this is Colby Byler, and these are all conflicts and struggles that astronauts deal with while on long-term space missions. The crews on these missions are usually around 7 to 8 people living in a space the size of a motorhome for up to 6 to 7 months. In a space station, there is no escape from the people around you and from the constant pressure of your work. So social and psychological problems are either dealt with immediately or they lead to further psychological stress and tension between crew members. When talking about dealing with people during a long-term space mission, Valerie Rayuman says, "One must bear in mind constantly the other's good and bad sides. Anticipate his thinking and the ramifications of a wrong utterance blown out of proportion. This forces space programs to hire psychologists to run tests to make sure that the crew is compatible with each other and that they know what stressors they can expect to experience once they are in space. But even though these precautions are made, most long-term space missions still see the issues of loneliness, depression, anxiety, and hostility come up over time in nearly every long-term space mission. Therefore, looking at an astronaut's resiliency to psychological and social stress cannot be ignored when they are choosing which astronauts will go on long-term space missions. This is because psychological and social stressors will ultimately show up when 7 or 8 people are confined and isolated into a small space for a long period of time. Think about it. Would you ever want to live under that type of pressure?
Telescopic Topics, a look into the world above us. Stay tuned to KUR for more telescopic topics, and for more information or to hear the segment again, click on the Telescopic Topics icon on the KUR website at www.kutztown.edu/KUR. Telescopic Topics is a production of the KU Physical Sciences Department and is recorded by the KU astronomy students in the studios of KUR. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
3:43 on the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio as we begin to move through the month of August here, talking obviously Philadelphia Eagles training camp, Philadelphia Eagles preseason, essentially just right around the corner with the first game this Friday against the Chicago Bears. Get to see at least for the first drive, I guess, at least on both sides of the ball, see the starting lineup for the Eagles, and it'll be interesting to see how things turn out. We'll talk a little more Eagles training camp in just a moment, as because before the show's over, we got to get to the call out of the week.
It's time for Tyler Werner's call out of the week.
I just think somebody owes us an explanation, that's all. What's the matter with you? Loser! You're a loser! Are you kidding me?
Well, I have a microphone, and you don't.
So you will listen to every word I have to say!
And yes, this week's call out of the week person happens to be a former Philadelphia Eagle and now a member of an NFC East rival, Deshaun Jackson. As he said last Tuesday, ironically, shortly after the Tyler Werner Show, I heard this actually. Deshaun Jackson on Eagle fans said how they booed their own players. Now, let me read. I don't have audio of this. I did hear audio of it, but I don't have audio of it. But here on USAtoday.com, I'll give you an idea of what was said here. It might be weird for some players to be starting the season in a new city, but Deshaun Jackson apparently isn't missing Philadelphia at all. In an interview with CSN Washington this week, the new Redskins wide receiver said he already felt more loved by fans with this new team than the tough critics in Philly. Now here's, I quote Deshaun Jackson here. "It is different. They're very supportive here. They're open. Being out on the field, you hear certain things, but they are good things. In Philly, sometimes things can get a little negative. They booed their own players, but here you don't really get that. They're here supporting you. Just as many people come to our morning practice that come to our walkthrough practices. So that shows you something. To not really have a practice, and people are still sitting here through a walkthrough, they are really big fans." And it says here, unlike Mark Sanchez, who also complimented his new fan base, being the Eagles, and then quickly took to Twitter to clarify that he had a great time in the Big Apple, Jackson seems to be sticking by his words. That's essentially what Deshaun Jackson said. That he's that they booed their own players, and I heard the audio of this. it's booing your own players, and I talked about this last week when I think with the Phillies, when people are booing lack of performance. I mean, would you rather the fans just sit there and be silent throughout the entire football game? As a result, I mean, it's when you make a big play, I mean, things go both ways. He says they boo their own players. When you're the fourth largest market, in major sports, and you're this team that constantly gets picked on, this fan base for constantly getting picked on, that, you haven't won a Super Bowl yet. And you see a 4-12 season that we saw out of, the Philadelphia Eagles the other year, with Andy Reid.
Time jersey.
I mean, when coming off that strong finish the year before, whenever, they were supposed to return, to form, and then they go out and they go 4-12, and Deshaun Jackson was, one of those guys. I mean, obviously Deshaun Jackson was a great weapon for the Philadelphia Eagles here. But fans, the fans that pay hard-earned money, to go out and see their team, lose 10 straight home games, which there was that streak where the Eagles lost 10 straight games at home. That was fortunately ended last year, thanks to, I think at the time Nick Foles was quarterbacking the team, so, kind of thanks to Nick Foles a little bit, and whoever else was, playing in that game for the Eagles. That streak was fortunately ended. But again, I mean, you talk about losing streaks like that at home, and you talk about disappointing seasons, and you talk about Deshaun Jackson, his tendency that when things wouldn't go right, he'd kind of throw a fit on the sideline. He'd sit on the bench and kind of just stare out into space, like he was throwing his own pity party while everyone else is at least on the sideline, trying to, stay in the game here or whatever. It's things like that, what do you expect for, when this is Philadelphia, the fan base that often gets made fun of for, you guys have never won a Super Bowl yet, or whatever. We have, however many Super Bowls, what do you expect? I mean, this is Philadelphia. That's what you signed up for. I mean, it's not Little League, Mighty Mites football when, when booing would obviously be wrong. But when you're paying hundreds of dollars to, in this large market to come to a, football game, for the Philadelphia Eagles, what do you expect? And now he says, having not played a single game in Washington yet, he said, it's different. They're very supportive here. How the fans come to our morning practice and our walkthrough practices. So that shows you something. I mean, every fan base will do that. But if you go out this season and say, play whoever at home, and this Redskins team is bad. I mean, and you sit there on the sideline with the same, kind of like you would in Philadelphia sometimes when things wouldn't go your way. That's what you're gonna get. You're gonna get some boos. Now, maybe not as strong of boos as Philadelphia, because Philadelphia really cares about its teams, and they're vocal fans. I mean, when Andy Reid was going 4-12 that one year that really was not supposed to be that bad, nobody expected would be that bad, and people were saying fire Andy. I mean, that's kind of a lot of what had to do with it. You underperform here, you're going to get booed. But you're going to get loved when you come out here on the field and Lincoln Financial Field and you light it up. So for see like the year T.O. had with the 13-3 Eagles 10 years ago when he had a career year and he was just lighting up the place, and for example. So, that's the way I look at that, Deshaun. I mean, not because you're an ex-Eagle, but, you say something that just comes off as silly to me here, and that's why he gets the call out of the week there. Now, before I end with Eagles training camp notes from practice, things that have been going on, in the golf world, I mean, things are not looking good for Tiger Woods, as he withdrew from the Bridgestone Invitational this past week.
Yesterday I did pull out.
Yep. Another case of the bad back. Now, Rory McIlroy was actually the guy that came back and win this tournament. Sergio Garcia was leading, seemed to be leading the pack, but again, I mean, Rory McIlroy, I mean, I mentioned last week when, after he won the British Open, again, I mean, he's been playing better golf ever since he ditched his fiancée, broke it off, however you want to put it. So Rory McIlroy getting another tournament win, and now he is ranked the number one golfer in the world, world golfing rankings, which makes more sense. Whereas like Tiger Woods was, at one, not long ago, he was ranked number one, even though he hadn't won a major tournament in however long. But Rory McIlroy has been on fire as of late. Again, winning a few weeks ago at the British Open, and now winning the British Invitational over in Akron, Ohio this past weekend. Sergio Garcia, the runner-up. Now, as far as Tiger Woods goes, let me read a little bit as to what happened. Let's read what happened here with Tiger Woods this past week, and with the back issue appearing to come back after things were going all right with his back. Tiger Woods withdrew from the Bridgestone Invitational during his fourth round on Sunday with an apparently a bad back. Woods hit his drive on the ninth hole and then walked off the course. Woods told Golf Channel's Jason Sobel that he pulled the lower part of his back on the second hole and then tried to play through it. He says, "Happened on the second hole when I hit my second shot," said Woods. "I fell back into the bunker. Just jarred it. It's been spasming ever since. It's just the whole lower back. I don't know what happened." This is Woods' fifth time to withdraw from a tournament in the last 5 years. They show a picture of him leaving. You'd have to think Woods' season is now over with the PGA Championship and Ryder Cup looming. He didn't have much of a comment, but I'd be stunned if he played either. "I don't know," Woods said. "Just trying to get out of here." So, that is, I guess the state of Tiger Woods now, as again pulling out of the Bridgestone Invitational after not even playing much in the tournament really.
Yesterday I did pull out.
Yep. So that's the state of that. Eagles notes here. I got yesterday's training camp practice. Weather was sunny and warm. Quick injury update: Kerry Williams, leg soreness, he returned. Riley Cooper, Jeff Mayle, foot and ankle injuries respectively. Cornerback Brandon Boykin and wide receiver Jeremy Macklin were banged up a little in practice and sat out some of the team drills. Macklin more so than Boykin, but they seem all right. No indication of anything major. The notes began with two of everyone's most favorite Eagles, Casey Matthews and Demaryius Johnson. As Johnson went out to run a short route, Matthews legally shoved him into the ground to disrupt the route. Survival of the fittest, it says. Now, there was a new drill near the start of the practice. 3 different offensive groups, first team, second team, third, all in the same field but 30 yards apart. They practice formations in several plays at a quick tempo. Just another example of Chip Kelly maximizing practice efficiency. Josh Huff made an incredible diving catch down the field on one play, but I later realized it was a drop, So, oh man, that's, I guess a little unfortunate there. Birds 24/7, Shield Kapadia noted aloud that Huff has a lot of plays like that, and, kind of noticed the same thing. As Huff gets more polish and experience, maybe he might find a way to finish those big plays. Eagles defensive coordinator Bill Davis was asked about the safety battle as it pertained to the competition of Earl Wolf versus Nate Allen. While most outsiders see the battle that way, Davis noted that it wasn't just those two involved and that they're going to work other defensive backs. Quarterback Nick Foles looked pretty good, which I would hope that, that's what you would expect.
How's everyone doing?
Yep, so he looked pretty good. I didn't see him make too many mistakes, as per the writer of this article. The only bad throw I could remember was a slightly overthrown pass to running back LaShawn McCoy, who was running a wheel route. Foles didn't throw an interception on Monday. That's kind of symbolic to his season last year. 3:20 right here in the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio. It is a mild day right here in the Delaware Valley up here at Kutztown. Looks like it's going to storm again today. It's probably made for a mild training camp weather-wise here on the, in the midst of the Philadelphia Eagles training camp, and the road here to the preseason, and the road to what should be a very interesting 2014 NFL season. I think you want to talk about storylines as we enter this 2014 season. I mean, I can't. I don't know if I can't think of another football team that probably has as many intriguing storylines as the Philadelphia Eagles do as we head into the season. Year two of Chip Kelly, as a whole, can this team, maybe win the division again? Maybe can they win a playoff game this year? Maybe not be one and done like they were last year. Is Nick Foles the real deal here when you talk about perhaps being a franchise quarterback? Is he the real deal? Can he have turn in another great season, another Pro Bowl season, and lead this team to the to the playoffs again, to the top of the NFC East, and obviously particularly can maybe he win a playoff game this time, as he continues to come along here in the Chip Kelly offense, maybe, so is Nick Foles the real deal here?
How's everyone doing?
Yeah. Obviously running back, LaShawn McCoy. But now you got Darren Sproles in the mix. Chris Polk is now, is like the third string running back. How's that going to change? Obviously, you got two new rookie receivers. You got Jeremy Maclin coming back. How can he come back from his ACL injury last